Mississippi. As promised, Representative Robert Johnson joins us right now. He's the minority leader in the Mississippi House of Representatives. District 94 is his home territory. That's parts of Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. He's also vice chair of the House State Affairs Committee. Representative Johnson, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Appreciate some of your time today. I'd love to start out by getting your reaction to what the news that has dominated the headlines for the last couple of days. What were you doing Saturday night when you heard the news that the United States had bombed the nuclear sites in Iran, and what's your reaction?
I was sitting down watching television with my wife, and we saw the news flash came across, and my reaction is, I would have liked for us not to have gotten involved so early. It appeared to me that Israel had it fully under control. They are militarily superior to Iran. They had initiated the first strikes. They had identified the nuclear storage facilities or wherever the research was going on, and they had the full support of the United States behind them. And I just think that they had displayed that they were the dominant force in that conflict. And I just thought the extra from the United States was unnecessary. So I just don't like the idea of us probably escalating something that I think that it appeared to me, as I followed the news, that the Israel with their allies, including the United States, had full control of.
Well, and it's certainly going to be interesting to see whether it's escalation or if this is kind of the beginning of the end for Iran. Although there's so much unknown, I think only time will tell in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, historically, this kind of action, it always ends in escalation. I just hope that I hope that the president is right. I hope that if these attacks mean that this is the end of the Iran that apparently the people who live in Iran would like to see a change in leadership. And maybe if that happens, there will be there'll be more peace talks and things moving forward.
Yeah. And my hope is, there's been so much talk about regime change, is that if that happens, that's because the Iranian people do it, not because we get into some nation building program, because we're not good at that. We've seen that over and over.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
Big picture before we kind of jump into some more local stuff. In terms of the state of the Democrat Party right now, the Democratic Party, both here in Mississippi and nationally, I have said a number of times, and I'd be really, really intrigued to hear your take on this. I don't see the Democrats in Mississippi as being nearly aligned as with some of the national Democrats or California Democrats as some people do. What is your take on that? Is it all Democrats are the same regardless of where they live, or is there a difference between being a Democrat in Mississippi and being a Democrat at either the national level or at one of the really, really liberal states?
Yeah, well, I used to have this conversation with Paul. All Republicans are alike. Democrats are all over the place. And so we have a very hard time of sticking to script. And that's because, as you...
Wait, you said all Republicans are alike?
All of them. They all read from the same page. You talk to one. Even when they disagree with the Republican Party, they're very good at holding the party line. Democrats are a lot different. So, and I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but mostly seriously. That's been my experience. But anyway...
Thomas Massey might
Democrats
like the word otherwise.
Yeah. Look, you're right. One of the biggest problems that we faced as a state party when we're trying to elect a president in the last gubernatorial race, one of the biggest problems we had was trying to make the people who sent a lot of resources down here, a lot of people here, say, look, wait. The national politics are not Mississippi Democrats politics. Those things that you all may highlight and want to talk about, that's not what we want to talk about. What we want to talk about are the things that make people's lives better. People want better neighborhoods. They want better schools. They want better opportunity for their children who end up moving away, who we'd rather see stay here. And that involves making sure that We fully fund infrastructure. We fully fund public education. We take as a high priority our teachers and our policemen and our first responders. Those are the people that make life better every day. And the other things are making sure that your water system is working and your roads are passable. So those are the things that Mississippi Democrats try to focus on and make sure we get done. National Democrats are more philosophical, more social issue related. That is just not where it is for us. When you're in a state that has the highest poverty level, the lowest per capita income, the slowest growth and gross domestic product, when you in a state like that, what you want to concentrate on is making sure that you invest in all our natural resources and the things that make this state grow. That's what Democrats care about here. And that's what national Democrats ought to care about. Look, in the last 4 or 5 years, we had some of the best years that we have enjoyed because national Democrats understood, like with the infrastructure bill and the things that we need that are important in small rural communities. That money came to Mississippi and we made use of it. Not as good a use as I'd like to have seen, but that was a big boost to our economy and to our hope and our prospect. Those are things that matter. But the rest of this stuff that they get involved in, we're not on the same page on a lot of it.
You say you would have liked to have seen Mississippi make better use of some of the money that came our way. How so?
I happen to be one of the people who represent areas west of I-55 and along the river. We seem to spend the vast majority of our money in places that don't really need it. Madison County, DeSoto County, the Gulf Coast, all the areas that are prosperous right now that are doing well because we invested in those areas. And some people say, well, DeSoto County is growing at such a great rate. We need to invest some money in. Yeah, to a certain extent. But do you neglect areas like Washington County and LaFleur County and Sharkey and Issaquena? And some people say, well, those communities, they're dying. They're dying because we have not in the last 30 years made any real purposeful investment in those areas. And I'm not talking about giving money away. I'm talking about making sure that, there are not 6 bridges that you can't pass in between LaFleur, Washington, and Bolivar counties, or that highways are not up to par, or that when you say, well, you need to have your industrial parks up, fortified in a way that will attract industry, but you don't have any really manufacturing or economic base, so you don't have any ad valorem tax to support that kind of instruction. But the governor has a program wisely that provides that kind of support. But hey, you need matching money to do it, but we don't have the matching money. You need to look at where your weaknesses are and try to strengthen those. And we don't do that. We do what's easy, what's popular. I'm a lawyer. We always talk about the cases that come into your office that, hey, this was a slam dunk. This is the one I want to take. Nobody wants to take the tough cases. Nobody wants to take the case that you're going to have to spend a lot of time working and invest a lot of money in, and the payback may not be as good. But that's the tough decision you have to make. And that's what we didn't do. And that's what we continued not to do.
All right. So let me ask you this. I mean, I will give you that there's some responsibility at the state level for that. But most of our congressional delegation in Washington can point to projects that have been funded in their home districts, money that they have fought to be allocated for. Why has Benny Thompson not been able to do that for his district?
That's not true. The money that those congressional look, Michael Guest can tout money that was spent in his district, but the money that was spent in his district, he voted against. That was ARPA money, that was infrastructure money. Every one of those pieces of federal legislation he voted against. You know who voted for them, who made sure they were passed? Benny Thompson did. But this is the way the federal money works. You don't send the money just to your district. You send it to the state to be allocated in different areas. Those bills were not written to say, hey, we're going to send $2.2 billion to the state of Mississippi, and it has to be spent in the 2nd Congressional District because I voted for it. Michael Guest voted against it. Trent Kelly voted against it. Whoever was a representative on the coast at that time voted against it. Cindy Hyde-Smith voted against it, and Roger Wicker voted against it. And Roger Wicker voted for the federal money that was helpful for health care and those kind of. At least he had the wisdom and the wherewithal to do that. But every Republican federal representative or senator we have voted against every federal program that was sending money to the state of Mississippi. But that money came in spite of them, and got spent in their districts. But
Robert
they
Johnson
take credit
is my
for it,
guest,
but they voted
Representative
against it.
Roger Johnson. He is House of Representatives minority leader in the state. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the special session. Some strong statements coming out of the leadership from the Democrat side before that special session with their frustration with the budget process. We'll talk about that when we come back. Robert Johnson is my guest. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV. We were talking earlier about the Strait of Hormuz and how that is a potential threat to the United States. China has issued a warning to Iran after threats to close the Strait of Hormuz. They said the Persian Gulf and nearby waters are vital trade corridors. They must be kept stable and free from disruption. So that may throw a kink into Iran's plans just a little bit. Representative Robert Johnson is joining me this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. A lot of different directions that we could go, but I want to give you, I want to hear from you. I know the statement that came out back around the opening of the special session. You and some of your colleagues were very frustrated with not being included in the budget process. I asked a number of people about that. I said, is this just politics, or is there something else that is at play? Generally speaking, the answer I got was that it was just politics. From your perspective, Democrats, certainly Democrat leadership, not being included in the budget process other than just kind of a heads up, here's what we're doing, that seemed to strike you negatively as we sit here a month or so removed. Where are you now?
Well, I don't. It's interesting that somebody would say it was just politics, because I spent a great deal of time, and if you talk to Republicans individually, the people I serve with in the House, they were equally frustrated. And it wasn't so much, I think the statement that we wanted to be included, I think that's generally, I never said that. What I said was, I would like to have had an opportunity to at least read and understand what was in some of those budget bills. That's all I asked for. And I asked for that when the speaker got elected, when Jason White got elected last year. He, to his credit, one of the things that he said he wanted to make sure, and I think he said it on your program, is that no legislators would be left out of the budget process, that he would make sure that we got the appropriation bills in enough time to look through them and know what we were voting for. Look, we have a 7.23 some odd amount of budget. 90% of what's in there, I really don't have to look at. I'm for it. I'm voting for it. I think that the budget process is, the people, our leaders in the House and the Senate have done a pretty good job of making sure, been good stewards of the money. But there are things that I think if you put 122 eyes on it, that we would make fewer mistakes. We'll make sure that we knew who we were voting for. And that's all I asked for. That's all we asked for. When you consider that you just talking about the money, federal money that was spent. We voted for bills where we spent federal money in a disproportionate amount in certain areas than in other areas. And if we'd had a chance to look at that, I think there would have been a coalition of Democrats and Republicans who would have said, hey, wait, I didn't know you were spending it that way. We'd like to do it this way. And I'm going to tell you that to a person, I didn't talk to anybody on the House floor that didn't say, hey, yeah, you're right. I kind of would like to know what I'm voting on.
And I think the people that said, oh, it's just politics, were referencing more not specifically this instance, but it's kind of the way the Democrats operated for a really long time when they were in power in the Mississippi House and Senate before, a dozen years ago when it kind of flipped to Republican. I don't think it was specifically about this issue. And by the way, I agreed with you on this show that, hey, you got to let everybody see the bill before you vote on it, even if it is a compressed timeline. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Is there a specific instance that you can point to where you talk about money being disproportionately spent in one area versus another?
Yeah. I don't, certain areas that are represented by certain chairmen in the state without, it's been beat to death, but I mean, it's, we literally, there's one county that got $38 million when there are counties that didn't get anything. I mean, in one session. And I don't begrudge anybody an opportunity to have that happen. I just think that a case could have been made. If this is happening like that, then maybe we need to go back and look at, if we have money left over, we could spend more money helping economic development and infrastructure in other places as well. It's not the idea that place that's fine. But we had the money to spend in other places, but people were holding it and using it as political capital as opposed to just being an equal distribution of money. Look, Representative Muriel Scott from Jones County introduced an amendment to say, look, you keep talking about how flush we are with money. Why don't we take $122 million and spend $1 million in everybody's district? There are places that didn't get $200,000. Just spend $1 million in everybody's district. It may not be $1 million may not mean a lot to Madison County, but it would mean the world to Issaquah County. It would mean the world to Jefferson County. It would do a whole lot of good instead of saying, well, what do you think? What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to spend it? When they spend money hand over feet in other places without any real justification for it. I mean, we gave $10 million to a town that has about 15,000 people for his downtown renovation. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, somewhere in northwest Mississippi. And I'm saying, if you spent $10 million in Fayette, it would be a mecca. You would change the world. So I'm just saying, and this. Let me go back to your original point about this saying politics goes and Democrats.
We got 20 seconds till the break.
Okay, 30 years in the legislature. I served under Democratic leadership and Republican leadership. It wasn't until the last 12 or 13 years that it's only Democrats and Republicans. And it started with, national Republican leadership in this state. So we always work together.
He's the minority leader in the House. I look forward to visiting with you again soon. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.